In the news this week, campaigners challenged the government over the limited time given to its consultation on a conversion therapy ban. A concerned father expresses his delight at a High Court ruling allowing him to challenge the government over missing porn safeguards. And Her Majesty the Queen commends the unchanging gospel of Christ to the Church of England General Synod. Hello. Campaigners have called on the government not to rush its consultation on banning so-called conversion therapy. Currently, the consultation is on a reduced 6-week timeline rather than the standard 12. The Let Us Pray group is warning that an ill-considered ban risks criminalising ordinary church activities, such as prayer between friends, and parents' freedom to pass on their values concerning sexual ethics to their children. A campaign spokesman said, "Government guidance on consultations warns that consulting too quickly will not give enough time for consideration and will reduce the quality of responses. This issue is too important to rush." Let Us Pray was echoing concerns by a former senior advisor to Number 10. Nikki Da Costa, the Prime Minister's former Director of Legislative Affairs, claimed the cut from 12 to 6 weeks was to get a good news story ahead of its global pro-LGBT conference in June next year. She said government policy on trans rights and gender identity was still being shaped by Stonewall, even as government departments cut ties with the controversial lobby group. Da Costa told The Times there is no other organisation, no business or charity, no matter how big, that can pick up the phone to a special advisor sitting outside Boris Johnson's office and get that person to speak directly to the Prime Minister. But that is the kind of access that Stonewall has. Staff who sought to present an alternative view, Da Costa said, risked being labelled difficult or transphobic. A father of 4 who was challenging the government over the lack of age verification on pornography sites has spoken exclusively to the Christian Institute about the importance of the case and his motivation for bringing it. Last week, the High Court granted Yanni Dekas and student Ava Vakil permission for a legal challenge after the government announced it would not be implementing a 2017 law requiring pornographers to introduce strict online age verification checks. The checks were approved under the Digital Economy Act 2017, but plans to implement them were abandoned in October 2019, with the government claiming they would be covered by another bill. The court agreed that the proposed new law could prove to be weaker than the one it claims to replace.
I'm absolutely delighted that this is going ahead. The trial will only be running in about 4 or 5 months from now. We're in the process of crowdfunding, but as a dad, wanting my boys to grow up in a community, in a society that doesn't normalize this type of exposure and behavior to children, I think is something to be really delighted about. And I'm looking forward to see the outcome of this trial.
And finally, Her Majesty the Queen has encouraged the Church of England to continue in its supreme task to share the good news of Jesus. In the speech delivered in her absence by the Earl of Wessex before the opening of the 11th General Synod, she called on the Church to focus on the unchanging gospel of Christ. None of us can slow the passage of time, and while we often focus on all that has changed in the intervening years, much remains unchanged, including the gospel of Christ and his teachings. The Queen remarked how, among the many duties of the Synod, one stood out as supreme: to bring the people of this country to the knowledge and the love of God. Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.